Good evening, St Mary's again. I'm here to read a different story this time, which is more suitable for the whole school. I've still got Peter Rabbit with me because he loves his stories and he's a great looking teddy. But this book is a little bit more special. This book is written by Jake Attree and the illustrations are by Matthew Calaby. And this book's really special because Jake Attree is my cousin. So much so, I'm actually going to his wedding, well, fingers crossed, going to his wedding in October. So my cousin Jake is an author, and this is the book that he's written, and it's called Ig, and it's got some fantastic pictures in it. So tonight, I'm going to share with you Ig, the book. And you can see the opening page, it's addressed to myself and to Charlie as we set up a GoFundMe page to help fund this book. So here we go. I'm going to do my best to allow you to see the pictures as well. So there are lots of creatures who live in the woods, in lots of the books you've read. But here's the story of a creature so large, he lives on the woods instead. He has a huge belly and arms and legs that are all incredibly big. He has two bouncy ears either side of his face, and his name, and it is Ig. You'd think that Ig's lonely up there by himself, lying on top of the trees, but Ig is so big that he's never alone because of his friends, the Iglees. And these tiny folks, compared to Ig, are all incredibly small. From the tips of his ears right down to his feet, there's enough room for them all. There's a town on his belly, and swings on his fingers, and even a house on his head. He's so big and squishy that walking on Ig is like bouncing all over a bed. But if you're an Igly, your favourite thing, which you couldn't make more fun if you tried, is to climb up and up all the way to his shoulders and slip down his arms like a slide. You can bounce off his knees and into the trees, or have a holiday on his ear. You can see for miles and miles and miles, as long as the air is clear. And when the day is done, you can sit on Ig's head with a cup of tea and some cake. The sky fills up with reds and pinks as the sun sinks over the lake. But one night, when Ig was asleep and all of the town was too, something buzzed from below the trees, then up into the air it flew. It sailed up the end of Ig's nose and buzzed and gave him a sting. Ig let out a snore, but was so fast asleep that he didn't feel a thing. The very next morning the sun sprang up and Ig awoke with a frown. There were hundreds of bumps all over his body, scattered throughout the town. When they peered through their windows and opened their doors, the Iglees got quite a fright. 3 ran off screaming, 2 passed out, and 1 house had doubled in height. As well as the lumps all over the place, the town was shaking too. Ig's body was rumbling, he spluttered and coughed and sneezed with a big achoo. The Iglees got thinking they needed a plan, then someone had one at last. If Ig was feeling under the weather, he needed some medicine fast. But how will we make him drink it, one said. Surely he's far too big. All of the bottles and spoons in the town are far too small for Ig. There had to be a way to figure it out. The Iglees always got the job done, so they put their heads together again, and soon the work had begun. They divided in 2, and half of the town collected all fruit they had saw, while the other half got straight to work on an Ig-sized cup and straw. Many coughs and sneezes later, from a cup the size of a house, The biggest straw in the history of straws stretched right up to Ig's mouth. And when the Igleys had finished mixing the fruit, Ig drank it down with a slurp. The town all waited for a second or two, and then came a colossal burp. Ig beamed a huge smile, then let out a laugh, and all of the Igleys cheered. The sneezes and coughs had finally stopped, and the bumps had all disappeared. Then it was time to get back to work on repairing what Ig had blown down. His enormous sneezes and great big coughs had made a mess of the town. A little bit later, with a touch more teamwork, things were as good as new, and if their Ig was poorly again, the Igleys would know what to do. So that was the story of a tiny town and their great big squishy friend, and how working together and lots of fruit got him on the mend. And that's it. That's Ig, with lots of pictures of fruit. And that was written by my cousin Jake. And it actually came with a brochure about how to make fruit smoothies to stay healthy. So I hope you enjoyed Ig, and I'm sure I will be reading more stories to you all again soon. Good night.